Welcome to round 5 of the Formula Sim Racing Academy Championship, brought to you by SimLab 3D Wrap. And for this race, IMB Racewear, who will be providing a wonderful racewear bundle, including gloves, boots, hat, and a shirt for the champion of each of the series, including the Academy Championship, which we have here today for the Azure GP. 47 laps around this really unbelievably tight street circuit, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot of action here today. We actually have two DRS zones on this track today as well, so there should be plenty of opportunity for some overtaking, but also plenty of opportunity for some incidents, and hopefully we will see not too many of them, but as we know from this circuit, it is very tight. But I'm Cameron Roger, and today I'm joined by Felix van Delft.
Yeah, thanks, Cameron. I'm looking forward to this race in some way, and also holding my butt cheeks together, trying to not cringe too much about what's going to happen here in Academy. Sometimes the drivers here can be a bit too reckless, and especially on a track like this, with a car like this, it's gonna be difficult for the drivers to keep it together. But let's hope they keep it together for at least most of the part of the race, and let's hope we will get at least a good race out of it. Of course, this car, lots of engine power, 976 horsepower, top speed 370. I'm sure we're not going to reach that here in Azure today. The weight, of course, only 740 kilograms, and 2 boost modes, race and qualifying mode. The qualifying mode only to be used mainly in qualifying, but you can use it in the race to some level. If you do too much, you will blow your engine, and that's something you will want to avoid. Let's jump into the qualifying session, shall we?
And last time out, George Chatzipantelis got pole position, and once again he is leading the way here from David Kalaksai in second place, who is actually leading the standings here in the Academy series. So he's looking pretty good as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some maybe different people up the front, because if you really get the feeling and the confidence around this track, you will just gain tenths and tenths. And as we see, the top 3 are already quite a bit away from the next few drivers, and 1 second is pretty much covering, let's say, the top 7 already. So the times are a little bit more spread out here. It is such a confidence track, and if you make a tiny mistake, that can actually lose you quite a bit of time here, because the lines and the angles of these corners make it so that you have to be very precise. But we now have Scott Davison go to the top of the times. This is his debut. He is racing for the NRWO, and yeah, we need to see what he is going to do. We don't have too much information on him regarding Formula Sim Racing. This is his first race, as Kalaksai now goes up into second place as well. So it seems like there are certainly a few drivers here at the top who are looking like they are on pace today, including Barbakov and Tucson as well in 5th and 6th. So there are some regular names up there.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get this overlay fixed. Some problems, so bear with us, please, but should be fixed in the next seconds.
Well, that is all right. We'll just take you through a couple of the drivers who we got out there. Most of them had done their second laps at the moment. We actually have someone who's, I think he's only done 2 races so far, Attila Molnar, up in 4th place for Netrex. So Netrex are looking pretty good there in 3rd and 4th. They haven't had the best start to the season in general across the 3 series. They've been generally pretty quick, but they haven't quite got to the results in the race. But Portugal was actually a pretty good race for them. They got some nice results across the board there. As we see, Jan Cato now go up into 6th position, and as always, the drivers have their 3 attempts for their qualifying laps. If they go over the 9 lap limit, they will get a disqualification, as Matt Tucson now goes up into 6th place. So yeah, they had 9 laps, which means obviously out lap, fast lap, in lap 3 times. And yeah, you do have to be careful, because if you crash on one of your laps, you might think you have an extra lap, but you actually need to be careful to not go over those lap limits. But now Jacob Reed's up into 8th place. He was your winner last time out for Drillers Esports. He won it arguably fairly comfortably, but not quite so easy today. He's almost 7 tenths off the pole position time at this moment in time.
I'm just having a look at Chatzipantelis at the moment, just coming out of the tunnel. you can just see on board with these cars how quickly and how close the walls are, especially here in qualifying. The limits are being looked for and perhaps stepped over a little bit, as you see there, tapping the outside wall in the swimming pool section of this track. Last corner, need to get the car just right on that curb. And what is it going to be for Shatsi Pantelis? Is it going to be enough for pole position? At least for now, it is. Great lap time for him, 1:07.1 at the moment for George Shatsi Pantelis.
And I believe that's his final lap, which I believe that is. And David Klaxai also has finished his lap, so it looks like Scott Davison, he's got one more lap to go, might be able to challenge here for pole position. Or as Molnar goes for a little spin coming out the casino there. That is very easy to do because you're right in to the camber of the corner, and then as it comes out of the corner, it really comes up and the rear lifts up and it goes all light. So you have to be very careful on the throttle there. As a few of the drivers now are coming to basically start their final laps with only a minute and a half left of the session.
Yeah, Scott Davidson just started his lap, I believe. Let's go on board with him. We come to the slowest part of the calendar here. This chicane first gear. Basically almost standing still in the middle of the corner. I think Davidson is on an outlap actually. Is he gonna make that? He's about 50 seconds. I think it's gonna be close, but should be able to get in another lap.
Yeah, fortunately the laps, as you can tell here, 1:07 is quite short. I would assume, especially for the WC guys, in a few hours' time, they're going to get well down into the low 1:06s, which is crazy, but it is only a 3.3 kilometer track, as we mentioned, 2 DRS zones as well. And this car is an absolute blast, especially with these lower speed corners. So if you want to check out the car yourself, it's either on the Steam Workshop or you can download it from the resources section of our Formula Sim Racing forums. So do go check that out, and you can still sign up if you want. But let's have a look at Scott Davison to see if he can get pole position here on his debut in Formula Sim Racing. Coming through turn number 1, big slide, and that is going to lose him time all the way up this hill. And this little kink here is turn number 2 before we go into number 3. Smoking that tyres, he's really pushing. Coming through turn number 4 now into Mirabeau. And this is all about keeping it tight, all down the wall, all down the curb. And then get a nice late apex for this hairpin. You actually want to turn in later than you think to get the correct apex. And you've got to nail these two right-handers. They're so easy to understeer wide and lose time. But he's done that pretty okay as he opens DRS through the tunnel. And this will be the main overtaking opportunity, I would say, down into this chicane during the race. But in qualifying, it's all about hitting those apexes, getting as close as you can to the walls. But he's a little bit further off there as they now come into coming towards sector 3. He's just bumped the wall there on the outside. And I'm actually trying to have a look. He's personal best in the second sector. So this could be an improvement from Davison as he comes into the final 2 corners. As he misses the apex a little bit, does he make the final apex? Oh, clunks it. Maybe a bit of contact with the wall on the outside. I don't know if there's going to be an improvement. Let's see what he does as he comes to the line. No, he doesn't improve. So it's going to be George Shatsi Pantelis on pole position for the Azure GP.
Yeah, look at Felix ending his last qualifying lap in the wall there. Indeed, last corner there, I think for Davidson was a little bit too much over the limit. Just hitting that inside apex a bit too hard. And then he realized soon enough that, the rear tires just had too much of a bump on that curb and just spun up. No traction out of the corner, and that's going to cost you a lot here on this track. Now, let's get these qualifying results for you. As we see here, Shatsi Pantelis on the pole position. Great lap time from him. Just a bit over 2/10 quicker than what Scott Davison was able to do. In third, we have Ibrahim Khan. Not too far as well from Davidson. It's quite close there in P2 to P5. David Klokstad P4, Stoyan Barbakov P5. And then, like you said, last race out, Jacob Reed was the winner, now in P6, about half a second off. We can see the gaps here in Azure being a bit bigger than we are perhaps a bit used to. I think last time out in Portugal, the gaps from P1 to P15 was about 1 second. Now it's a bit more stretched out. I'm guessing that's because of the nature of this track, but we're gonna have to wait and see what's gonna happen in the race. I think we will go for a short break, and we'll see what Michi has to say about this track.
Welcome everyone, this is Formula Sim Racing and my name is Michi Hoyer. Welcome to today's edition of Track Walk, the track presentation of the famous Circuit d'Azur. We're firing up the engine and make it out of the pits very tight here onto the pits. I even have to reverse a little due to the tightness of the pit exit, and that pretty much sums up what it is all about, what is happening here on the Formula Sim Racing race weekend. We are at one of the most famous track circuits in the world, leaving pit road, up the hill, going towards the casino, turn 3 that is, here on the left hand side, but the actual casino turn is this right hander, turn 4. And as you all know, the circuit, there is not much to say about its main characteristics. Full downforce as much as you can get as we come down to the most famous hairpin in the world, the hotel hairpin, the Grand Hotel hairpin I think it is, the slowest point in the Formula Sim Racing and Formula 1 calendar. Also going into the tunnel here, the second DRS zone has been added, and yeah, coming out of tunnel into Nouvelle chicane, the tightest chicane on the circuit. Speaking about tight, the entire circuit is very tight, so a minor mistake, and not even a major mistake, and you're straight into the barriers. Fast chicane around Piscine, the slower chicane around Piscine, and then final turn, Rascasse. Not penultimate turn that is, but it's very famous as Michael Schumacher has parked it there in 2006, but we don't park it, we smash it now. DRS wide open to start our flying lap around the Circuit d'Azur circuit. Hard on the brakes into turn 1, Saint-Devote, probably the best overtaking spot if you even want to talk about overtaking here on this circuit. Coming up to turn 3, left-hander, try to stay on the inside, line up with the wall right here to get a best possible entry into Casino, then stay away from this bump into Mirabeau Hautes. That goes down right to the Grand Hotel hairpin, first gear, only time of the year we're going to use that during a cornering. Then turn 8, Mirabeau Bas into Portier, and then very important, straight into the tunnel, DRS wide open to the second possible potential overtaking spot. Hard on the brakes into Nouvelle chicane, very tight here on the wall, on the anti-cut. Going towards the double downshift, Tabac corner, straight, full throttle through the fast chicane, into the slower chicane, where Max Verstappen used to plank it twice already in his career, going around Rascasse, and then final turn, kissing the inside curb, kissing the exit curb, even a slight notch on the wall. Happily the cars are right, and across the line, that is one flying lap here around the Circuit d'Azur, and I'm pretty sure you guys are interested to see who's able to keep it out of the walls, who's able to keep it out of the planks, and who is maybe planking the car. You will find out 1400, 1630 and 1900 GMT when ACA Pro and the World Championship drivers are fighting for the most prestigious win in the season here around Circuit d'Azur. And yeah, I have already spoken about the fact that even the slightest mistake makes you go right into the barrier, so we're all eager to find out who is doing the job, the nerve-wracking race, without a single mistake.
And welcome back to the 5th race of the Formula Sim Racing Academy Championship for 2020, brought to you by SimLab, 3D Wrap, and for this race got a new sponsor, IMB Racewear as well, so thank you to them for coming aboard, giving some nice racewear bundles to our champions for this year, including the Academy Championship, which is great to see. But talking about the championship, who is leading the way? So after the first 4 races of the season, we've got David Klaksai leading the way with 53 points ahead of Matthew Tewson on 49. So only 4 points are separating those two drivers. Then another 5 points back, we have Danny Robbins in 3rd place, and then we are followed by Stoyan Barbakov. So those 4, Robbins, Barbakov, Tewson and Klaksai, are the ones to look out for regarding the championship. There's a little bit of a gap behind them for a couple of drivers who aren't here today. So yeah, looking good for them. A fun fact about the Academy Series is we've had 4 races, 4 different winners, and each of those 4 winners have only won a race, and they've DNF'd or not attended the other races. So that means that's why the championship is quite close and quite wide open, because there's not been like one single driver to just be consistently at the front leading the way. So I think, Felix, this is going to be a really interesting race today.
I think we are in for a treat, definitely. Warm-up session has just been ended. I think it's a good time to have a quick look again at what this grid looks like today. Of course, qualifying is almost the most important thing on this track, next to strategy, of course. There's still 47 laps to do around this track. You need to make sure you don't hit the wall, and you need to make sure you stay in front if you qualify at the front. The guy that did qualify at the front is George Chatsipantelis. He will be starting from pole position here today. Great qualifying session for him. Scott Davison wasn't able to get the best run out of the last corner in his final lap, but will still be starting on the front row next to Chatsipantelis. Then Ibrahim Khan and Kaloksai will be starting behind them. Stoyan Barbakov and Jacob Reed behind them. Then Attila Molnar and Danny Robbins in P7 and P8. P9, Petr Palacek and Matthew Tewson. Second in the championship is starting from P10, so he will be the final one that is going to start on the soft tire mandatorily. Of course, everybody outside the top 10 is able to choose whichever tire compound they want to use. The tire compounds available are soft, medium and hard, of course. And everybody in the top 10 needs to start on those softs. Then Thomas Andrea Mia Rossio, sorry if I mispronounced your name. P12 Blake Checkets. Then John Katao, P13, Luka Verlic, P14, Martin Antol, P15, Dimitri Zarov, P16, P17, Robert Pignataro, P18, Patrick Ruzinak, P19, Guillaume Mas, P20, Grecek Lutzak, P21, Ludovic Verwit, P22, Nikodem Wisbicki, P23, Nylens Lundval, 24th is Eric Chandra, and then 25th, Massimiliano Riboli. 26th, Mark Weiler. 27th, Mikhailo Vicentovic. And the last 2 drivers on the grid, João Gabriel and Michael Teichmann. I think there might be 1 driver missing, if I'm...
No, Job van Uyter has joined, but he didn't do qualifying, so he'll be starting from the back of the field behind Teichmann.
Alright, so he'll be starting at the back of the grid, but I'm sure... that's going to be a difficult task, but perhaps also a good thing that you can maybe avoid the carnage in front a little bit.
And what's quite interesting is Job van Uyter was only coming out of the chicane when George Chatsipantelis was sitting on the grid. He is going to be sat there for ages, and his engine is going to be getting really hot, and I do hope they have enough radiator, because we did do 2 test races in the previous 2 weeks, and a couple of drivers did blow their engines because you obviously don't get the airflow around this track and things like that. So let's see what these drivers can do. We've now got Job lining up there, P30 on the grid. So let's see what George Chatsipantelis can do. 2nd pole position in a row. Unfortunately, didn't convert that last race in Portugal, but here in Azure, what can he do? He's got 47 laps to be able to take his first win, actually, it would be, in the Academy Series as well. Got Davison alongside him. Debut and also on the front row. So let's see what they can do coming down into turn number 1 as the lights come on. Now they go out here at Azure. 1 car didn't get away. I think that's Ibrahim Khan. That's actually given these 2 a really good job. A really nice run, I should say, coming down into turn number 1. There was some contact in the back, trying to go down to see who that was. I believe that is Klaksai. That's Klaksai. Your championship leader is around at turn number 1. And he is going to have to rejoin from the back. It looks like he's going to be getting going again, but it's George Chatsipantelis who's leading the way from Scott Davison at the front, looking back into 8th place. We've got Petr Palazek.
Yeah, Daniel
Who's
Robbins,
doing
I think, without a front wing there, or some of the other drillers' cars. There was one driller's car there at the front that didn't have a front wing. Right.
Oh, there's loads of contact I'm hearing somewhere. Eric Chandra has been contact. He's out the race with Raboli. It's contact in the back. Yeah, Kalaxai's all the way down the back. As we said, your championship leader. This is really not going to be good for him, as he's going to have to make his way through the field. And as we know, overtaking is not too easy around here. But it looks like most drivers have actually got through that pretty decently, as Kalaxai is now getting past Gabriel towards the back of the field. So let's have a look at your order as we come across the line to finish lap number 1. George Chespantis leading the way by over a second to Scott Davison. Barbakov has got himself up into 3rd place. Ibrahim Khan, who had that really bad start, is in 4th position. Molnar is in 5th. Danny Robbins, who is also looking good in the championship at the moment, is in 6th place. Petr Palazek, who's been the favourite for a number of people for this race win, he's down in 7th position. Matt Tucson, nicely in 8th. Checkit's in 9th, who's on those medium compound tyres. He's on the alternate strategy. And also Adrian Maharazoa in 10th place. So that is your top 10. And let's see who's in the pit lane. We've got Martin Antol, Michael Teichmann and Jacob Reed all getting brand new front wings. And if they want to do anything in this race, they're going to have to try and go to the end of the race on those hard compound tyres.
Yeah, rest of the field, like you said, pretty clean start for them. Of course, now it's going to be the pressure on all of these drivers. A single mistake will most likely end your race here. The walls are very unforgiving. And especially for these academy drivers who are most of the time not the most experienced drivers that we have here in the Formula Sim Racing Championship. Of course, that's why it's called the Academy Series. People are here to gain more experience, to get the speed, to get up the ladder into the Pro or the World Championship Series later on in their careers. At the moment, looking at Marco Weiler, he is close to the car in front of him, but of course, where are you going to get an overtake? And DRS will be enabled this next lap. Like we said in the start of the broadcast, there's a DRS straight here on the start-finish straight, and also one in the tunnel.
And not too far behind him is Kalaxai, who's made his way past a couple of cars. He's up into 22nd place. And I do wonder if we want to try and get a replay of what happened to him down into turn number 1, because he was pretty much the only car that I saw who was actually backwards. So he's obviously been hit from behind. We'll see if we can do that for you. But either way, he's down in 22nd place behind Job van Uyter. And I just hear some crashing. Someone was without a front wing. Let's have a look who this is.
I think it's
Palazek.
Palazek, yeah. Drillers once again losing a front wing. Already the second Drillers cars, maybe even the third of this race that has lost the front wing. And of course you need to be very careful, because without that front wing you lose almost all of your grip on this track. You need to be careful to not get into the way of all the other cars, and also not run wide into another wall.
Yeah, the walls are everywhere here. And I worked out for the World Championship race later on, 78 laps they will have. They have almost 1,500 corners, 1,500 corners in the whole race. So obviously this being 60% will be probably nearer 800 or 900 corners that these drivers have to get.
Here we are on board with Kalaxai, yes. Into turn 1. Oh yeah, he got squeezed a little bit, sandwiched. I think that's just the unluckiness of this track. Let's see it once again. He had a slow start though. Drivers had to avoid him on the start. And then his Drillers cars got pushed wide a little bit by the Seawolf. And then he just got spun around. And yeah, well, there's nothing he can really do. It's a ground effect car there without a front wing, I believe.
So that was... I would assume that was Jacob Reed then who gave him a little squeeze, which is why he lost the front wing. And Jacob Reed, as we mentioned earlier, was your winner last time out as well. So we could be looking at a 5th different winner here today at the Azure GP, because the very first win of the season came to Martin Hemmingson, who then got moved. Jozinski won Imola, but he's not here today. Jackson Went won Indianapolis, and he's actually taken a break from sim racing. And now Jacob Reed is down in 26th. So it looks like we're definitely going to get someone new, potentially even a new podium here.
Kalaxai is on a pressure is putting pressure on Job van Uitert. Coming into turn 1 there, Kaloksai was very close with the DRS on the rear wing of van Uitert. Of course, some people might know this name, Job van Uitert, Le Mans driver for what's the team name? Holland Racing Team Holland. I'm not exactly sure actually, but
Racing Team Nederland.
Racing Team Nederland, right? But yeah.
Oh, we got someone without a front wing.
I think it's Robbins.
Is that? Oh yes, the driller's car is in the back of Mona at the end of the tunnel. They are in the runoff section, if you remember.
Yeah, there is.
I think it's like 2004.
Oh, it's also
Button went into someone. Yeah, Mona and Robbins, they're in the back of each other, and Mona's actually lost his wheels now. Kato is also out of the race, so quite a lot of action here. We're going to have to try and get some replays for all of these for you. But yeah, this is unfortunately what Azure can bring, and Yamona is now out of the race. And Danny Robbins has lost the wheel, so he's going to be out of the race as well. That's such a shame.
I think Van Uitert is going to get overtaken here into turn 1. Is he going to defend? No, side by side into here. Great overtake there from Kaloksai. Van Uitert giving him the room. He knows that he's a bit slower than Kaloksai. Kaloksai, of course, qualified at the front of the field and just is getting through the field once again now. A great move there into turn 1.
Yeah, I mean, turn number 1 is not actually the easiest place to overtake because the straight isn't quite as long as the one coming out of the tunnel.
Here we go. Let's see if we can get a replay here of what happened to... this is Katao. I think he just hit the wall. Yeah, he hit the wall there. End of the race. Yeah,
that wall is quite awkward. Oh, yeah, to be a contact over ghost speed as well. That wall there is actually quite awkward. The one in the swimming pool section, you have to be careful really not to touch it, as the angle that you come at it seems to make you lose some damage. I had a quick look on my screen with the Monar Robbins incident. Monar basically lagged a little bit into Robbins. Their cars got stuck together, and then as you saw, they were unable to unstick themselves, if that is a word. So right. Yeah, they unfortunately are both out of the race. So after 5 or 6 laps, we've now got 24 drivers, which to be honest is way better than I thought. I thought we were going to see 10 or 15 DNFs by now, but most drivers are keeping it fairly clean so far. So the next thing to really think about, as the drivers are sort of spreading out a bit, has to be said, 10 seconds, or 11 seconds I should say, to Matt Tewson down in 5th place. So this is really showing the speed of the front runners. But strategy is really the next thing to talk about. The Academy Series is 60% distance of what the WC guys can do, so they've got it way easier on the tyres, but that doesn't mean to say that we don't see some interesting strategies, and I would assume most of the drivers are going to do something in the region of maybe 15 laps on these soft compound tyres.
Yeah, it's interesting to see because we have already had quite a few incidents at the front as well. Only the top 5 right now are on the softest compound. Everybody behind them pretty much is on the medium or even the hard. If you talk about Pignataro, I think they will definitely have a good chance of fighting for perhaps the top 5 even. Of course, the top 5 drivers will have to stop a bit earlier unless they really conserve their soft tires right now. And the drivers that right now are on a harder set of tires will be able to get the softer tires and be quicker at the end of the race.
And looking at someone who's on those soft tyres at the moment is Kalaksai down in 17th place. He is now getting held up by a number of drivers. We've got Weiler, Lundvall and even Luxak a bit further up the road. So he's got to do his best here to try and overtake. The issue is that Weiler has also got DRS. So this is the issue that we're going to see for him. We've seen him make a couple of good moves so far, but he does need to be careful regarding the championship because, as I mentioned, he's only got a 4-point lead to Matt Tewson, who's currently in 5th position. So if he's not too careful, he might be losing the championship lead here. And obviously he was a bit unlucky in turn number 1, but still he needs to try and negate that difference as much as he can. But we are coming now to the end of lap number 8. We've got George Chelsea Pantelis. I just clicked on him. He's half a lap up the road from these guys already.
Yeah, Chachipantel is so far doing a great job. He was leading, of course, in Portugal as well last time around, but had an unfortunate incident which basically ended his race. And right now, still doing a great job. Lap 9 at the moment. Of course, still quite a way to go. 39 laps to go, including this one.
Yeah, the laps do go by pretty quickly here. They've been such a short lap. But when you're driving, and especially when you're defending against cars behind, those laps take forever, as you just want to get each braking zone correct. And yeah, Kalaxai can't get quite close enough into this chicane, and they do have to be very careful, because there was some slightly more strict rules put in place regarding overtaking into the chicane, because it is such a tight corner, so you do have to be very careful. But this corner into Raskas is often one, and he's kind of thinking about it, but oh yeah, it's very, very tight and very difficult to make an overtake work. And then we get back onto the start-finish straight again, where we've seen him overtake, but not on this occasion. Looking back at the front, there's some gaps forming. We've got Ibrahim Khan in 4th place, and he's now, quick maths, 8 seconds ahead of Matt Tucson in 5th place. So Tucson's really not keeping up with the top 4 here. And this could be a really good chance for him to get a podium. He did get a podium back in Indianapolis before he got a post-race penalty, which actually took that away. But this could be a good opportunity for him, but he's not really staying with the front runners at the moment, though he has now got a nice gap to Checkit's behind. But Checkit's in 6th place, is on those medium compound tyres, so he's going to be going long into this race and could be one to look out for later on, when he probably goes on to maybe even the soft compound tyres at the end of the race. But still looking at this battle for 14th place, and looks like it's really holding these guys up now. And he's obviously on those harder compound tyres, and that is not helping his pace at the moment. But it still looks like Lundvaul's got some more at the as we speak.
Also, Luxak now really starting to drop back into this little train. He was a bit in front. Oh, a bit of a lag spike there. That bunched up the field, I think, from Lundvaul. This is gonna allow Weiler to let past Kalaxai, I should say. Well, I was going to say Kalaxai to get past Weiler, but Kalaxai taking the opportunity there. Bit of a lag incident there, perhaps, but I'm sure Kalaxai won't be.
Davison's out.
He is.
2nd place man, Davison. That is. We need to see what's gone on with him.
Let's go for replay.
Yeah, 2nd place man, his debut here. Let's see what's happened. Coming into to back.
I think he hit the wall somewhere. Replay is a bit laggy. Yes, he hit the wall there on the left side. Something you don't want to do.
Yeah, that you've really got to be careful with that wall. It seems, especially with that one, with just the speed and the angle that you come up to it. Really not a good combination when you have an open wheel car. And yes, Scott Davison out of this race, and that leaves Chatsipansis with a 6-second gap to Barbakov, who's really struggling now. Khan is all over the back of him, and he has been for a couple of laps now. So Chatsipansis might have the perfect opportunity here to win the race here in Academy.
Yeah, he just needs to be. He needs to be patient now. Of course, he knows he has the gap, so he doesn't need to go to the absolute limit to try and extend the gap or anything. He just needs to be careful, be safe, manage the gap, manage the tires, of course, as well. You don't want to wear them out too much. You need to be careful about that too. Of course, I don't know exactly what his strategy is, but I'm guessing he's gonna go for a few more laps before he comes into the pit lane now.
And last lap, Chatsipansis was 1 second quicker than Barbakov, just to reiterate the point that I was saying about Barbakov struggling quite a bit.
Looks going for a really, really opportunistic move there into Raskas.
Oh,
it's I would say almost a famous move that almost always ends in exactly what happened here. If you dive for the inside there, the driver in front basically has nowhere to go, and once he turns in he just gets turned around by Coloxide there. I think it's a bit too opportunistic there from David. But of course, I'm not the race steward, so I won't be to judge for that.
Yeah, and Rietveld actually lost his. Interestingly, he lost his wheel, but not his front wing, which you don't often see. And I believe wheels don't get repaired, but we'll see as
that will be able to.
Oh no, it's actually come out. He's got a new wheel, so
Alright.
Rietveld has actually got out into the race because this season it was changed to basically allow quicker repairs and things like that. So he is back out. So let's see what has happened. We're on board here with Rietveld as we come towards Raskas. We're going to see a nice late dive there by Calaxai. Yeah, just a little bit too tight. It looks like Rietveld just about gave him some room, but that is such a tight corner, Raskas. It's quite difficult to see from that exact angle who is at fault, but that was certainly an opportunistic move that maybe overall didn't work out for Calaxai, but he's now up into 14th place. He's got 2 points to his name, and he has still got, I would guess, a few laps to make his pit stop, but he's 52 seconds off the lead, as Barbakov is now 9.5 seconds off Chassis Pantelis. So Chassis Pantelis is walking away with this at this moment. He's still going as we end lap 14.
And Ibrahim Khan and Barbakov are very close to each other throughout this whole race so far. I think Khan is perhaps taking it slow. As I say that, he's going to come into the pit lane. First of the regular pit stops here in the Côte d'Azur. So far, I think we've had a pretty exciting race, but this strategy is going to make it even more exciting, I think. What is Khan going to do? I think it's a set of hard tires, so I'm assuming he's on a one-stop and going to the end of this race.
Yeah, this is going to be close with Azure and Zarov. Zarov had to back out of that move there coming out of the pit lane. I think Khan has actually been able to get past both of them as well. And the drivers were warned, especially for that pit exit, to not cross that yellow line for when cars coming out of the pit lane. It seems that worked out just about for Khan, as he now has a tiny gap ahead of him. And this undercut could work, because we know Barbakov's struggling. And Barbakov could be overtaken here in the pit stops. And as you mentioned, one stop, I would assume everyone's got a one stop here, because from this point on you should easily be able to get the hards about 30 to 35 laps to the end of the race. So that should be nice and simple. But obviously, if you burn up your tyres, especially the rear tyres around here, you will start losing a lot of lap time. And does Barbakov come in?
Yeah.
Yes, he does. Very slow pit lane here, 60 kilometers an hour. So we need to see where he's going to file back out. But I would assume Khan might be able to get an undercut here.
Is the very last pit box here in the pit lane. Also hard tires for Barbakov. Out of the pit lane right now. There is Khan. Very close to him on the exit, but I think Khan has him pretty decently. And Barbakov there pretty much ignoring the pit exit line.
Yeah, he's got to be careful that people have been penalised for cutting pit exit. And he was obviously pushing to try and stay ahead of Khan, but he's lost out by about a second there. And so that really hasn't worked. That is exactly the undercut that we were talking about. And it seems that you're going to lose potentially 20 seconds with the pit stop, it seems. So we need to remember that for future reference. As we now have George Chassis Pantelis leading by 18 seconds from Matt Tucson. George comes into the pit lane. And if Matt pits, this will be perfect for George, because he will come out in the lead with a clear track. So let's see if Tucson follows him in, as George also goes onto the hard tyres. No, Tucson's actually staying out. So this is quite crucial if Tucson gets in front of Chassis Pantelis, as they're going to be side by side, and Tucson's got it. As someone has hit the wall, I believe. I heard someone hitting the wall.
Lukczak, I think.
No rear wheel.
Let's have a look at the replay. Here we go. Lukczak into the tunnel. The replays are a bit laggy. Apologies for that. Oh! What happened there?
I think he was trying to let Calaxai through. His teammate, and now Calaxai's coming into the pit lane as he's lost his front wheel. Lukczak is out of the race, so that has really not worked for Royal Blue. God, this is a very interesting race for the championship, especially, as this is going to blow it wide open as now Matt Tusen has got Chetzepantis behind, but as we mentioned, Tusen is needing a pit stop. And when he does, Chetzepantis is going to be such an amazing opportunity here. He's going to have such a big lead. And will Matt Tusen come into the pit lane? He's gone a nice wide line to make sure he gets into the pit lane. And he's taken up pretty slow, but he is in. He will not have cut that, or sped I should say, in the pit lane. So now Chetzepantis has been released. Let's see what Tusen does. Hard tyres as well. But where will he come out? Because obviously staying out, we've seen the undercut is quite powerful. And he's going to drop quite a way down, actually. He's going to come out behind, Luka Felix, Zaharov and Adrian Maharazoa. But he's quite a way off them. So, yeah, not the ideal strategy potentially. But he will have some newer tyres coming towards the end of the race.
Yep, he definitely will. Barbikov now getting close to Ibrahim Khan. Of course, Khan was the first to pit and managed to work that undercut beautifully. Now Barbikov behind him as they close into Blake Checkets. Blake, of course, hasn't pitted yet.
Yeah, he hasn't pit, so this could be even more crucial to Chetzepantis' race because he might hold these guys up. He's on those medium compound tyres. He could potentially go to maybe high 20s, so like another 7 or 8 laps and go to the softs at the end, which means if he's out for another 8, 9, 10 laps, he's going to really be holding up Khan, as we now have Adrian Maharazoa in, who start on those medium compounds. So actually maybe the mediums don't last quite so long as expected. He's now gone to the hard tyres. Interesting that he chose to
I don't think he has a different choice. I mean, you could go to the softs, but I don't think you're going to be able to do 29 laps on the softs.
Yeah, it's just interesting that he chose the mediums at the beginning and then didn't quite take them as far as you would expect. I mean, me personally, I did get 20 laps out of the softs at a decent pace, so that is possible. So you would assume high 20s, maybe low 30s even for the mediums, but obviously that is on a conservative run. In this shorter race, you don't have to be quite so as conservative. And yeah, Khan's really now getting hold up by Checkets. So this is going to be awesome. Let's have a look at the pace on the previous lap. So yeah, last lap, Chetzepantis was 1 second quicker. So this could be an awesome opportunity for George. Unfortunately, he's been known to make some mistakes when being in a good position. However, as Khan has got past Checkets. Sorry, I thought Checkets crashed, but it's actually
gone onto the pit line.
Yeah, I thought he crashed, but pit lane. So it's interesting that they haven't got them quite as far as you would expect, but they also don't need to, which has released Khan. And now Khan is in second position from Stoyan Barbikov.
Yeah, Khan will not have the DRS now from the driver in front of him, but I think he has been pushing a little bit already in the first part of this lap, extending the gap to Barbikov slightly. Of course, you want to avoid him being too close in this part of the track because you will have DRS opening right about here in the tunnel for Barbikov. And you can see the gap already being big enough for Barbikov not to be able to dive into any gaps.
Oh, can't send that over the curb, and this could give Barbikov an opportunity on the inside to back. He's had experience overtaking me here in that corner in another series, but couldn't make it on that occasion. But that is the types of opportunities that you really need to try and capitalise on. But it does seem that Khan might have the raw pace on Barbikov, as he did get a little bit of a gap there on the previous lap. But now Barbikov is going to be all over him. He might have a bit of boost now down into turn number 1, but yeah, not going to be close enough this time. Didn't open DRS, interestingly, so maybe chose not to overtake. As looking a bit further back, we've got Matt Tusen, and it's now being followed by Pinataro, who's actually moved to go speed as he just hits the wall on the exit of turn number 1. And I'm trying to see if he's pit or not. I actually don't think he's pit, so maybe Pinataro's not quite as involved in the race as I thought.
He hasn't pit.
But yeah, either way, Tusen, 10 seconds off in 4th place, hasn't quite had the pace of these top guys so far.
Right, Barbikov Once again close. This time around, Khan gets through the chicane nicely.
Oh, sorry, just looking a bit further back. Palisek overtook Gabriel down into turn number 1, smacked into the wall on the outside, and he's going to be out the race. He's lost a wheel, and he's actually blocked the road for Raboli there. And yeah, Palisek, another driller's car out of this race, or at least had issues in this race. Yeah, not the best day for drillers, has to be said, as Kalaksai's been into the pit lane down in 21st. But yeah, Palisek, he actually was a bit naughty, went over the yellow line to make the overtake as well. So
let's have a look at the replay quickly. So here we go, indeed, well over that yellow line coming into turn 1, and then just overshot the corner totally. And without the rear wheel, tries to continue the race and spins the car. And then blocks the road completely there for the other cars. A bit unfortunate there. But yeah, just too hard entry into turn 1 there.
Yeah, he went in a bit too hot. The exit of turn 1's actually fairly nice with the angle that you sort of... the natural racer line brings you to it. But he just locked the rears, swung the back around. And yeah, that is going to be a race over for him. As we look back to Barbkov, who is dropping off a little bit to Khan. So I believe Khan has the pace here to make this P2 work. So this could be a pretty good result for Khan. I'm trying to look where he is in the championship. He's currently 23rd in the championship. He's only done 1 race, and he came 9th. So this would be his best position by far, and he's looking pretty good so far. He had some of the fastest times on the practice server in the last couple of weeks as well. So he's obviously done a good amount of practice and a good amount of getting comfortable on this track, which is really what it's all about.
Yep. Also, of course, there's a few other drivers that are still out on track a bit further down the field that haven't picked yet either. Job van Uiten, Mikhailo Vicentovic. We haven't seen much of them, to be honest. Just having a pretty calm race, even here at the Circuit d'Azur. But they're doing a good job by just managing their pace, not over pushing the car, just keeping the car within the limits, within the walls. And perhaps, of course, they are still on a different strategy. Haven't pit yet. Might be able to get some nice points out of it.
And the points are definitely interesting in the Academy series. As we've mentioned, it's so wide open that results like this, where someone different, for instance, Chelsea Patel is winning and Khan getting second, they're like so far away from the top of the championship that really opens it up. In fact, Chelsea Pantelis hasn't scored a point. In fact, he hasn't even finished a race this season so far in the first 4 races. So this is going to be giving him 25 points if he can make it to the end of the race. And that would be another winner who has only won and DNF'd, which is quite remarkable, as we are obviously going to be at the halfway point of the season after this race. 10 race season, this is round 5. And this will be where we really get an opportunity to see who is leading the way. But in the Academy Championship, I think we're going to be scratching our heads a little bit longer.
So we're halfway through this race now, 24 laps gone, 23 to go.
And we need to see what these hard tyre drivers are going to do. I mean, obviously they're going to one stop, but as we saw, Bobkov, for instance, really struggled with his tyres at the end of that first stint. Chelsea Pantelis seemed to keep his tyres fairly decently in that first stint, and that is what you need to look out for any people who may be burning up their tyres for later on in the race. As you really don't want to do that, because then you're just going to be defending from people behind you for all of the last few laps of the race. But looking a bit further down, we got Thomas Adrian Harazoa in 10th place. Then we got Felix and Zaharov following them at the moment. This is obviously the battle for 10th place. Points go down to 15th in this championship. So these are still some decent points to look to fight for. And it looks like Felix is going to be all over the back of Adrian Harazoa in the next couple of laps.
Azarov right behind them, of course, as well. And Zarov needs to be mindful, of course, of what he's going to do here. Zarov on a softer set of tire compared to these two drivers. Ooh.
Rietveld out. Another driller's driver having issues. In fact, he was the one who had issues a couple laps ago, actually, didn't he?
Yep, he did. We'll have a look at the replay later on. Felix is, I think, setting himself up for a move into turn 1. Perhaps if he can get a good exit out of the last two corners, get the DRS, of course. Has to turn in a bit late there for Raskas, almost hitting the inside wall. And now out of the last corner, loses the slipstream a little bit, but also Zarov not too close to capitalize on that small mistake from Felix. Let's have a quick look at that replay. Here on board with Ruzinak in the tunnel. What happened to him? Did he just hit the outside wall?
Yeah.
Yeah, he hit the outside wall.
Yeah. Drillers really haven't had the best race today, have they? Rostek, Palisek, and Danny Robbins all out of the race. Oh, Mark Weiler now out of the race. He's already lost his front wing in the tunnel section. I'm trying to go back to see where he's lost his front wing. He's already lost this way earlier in the lap. He's actually lost that coming out of the casino. So he's trying to get back to the pit lane without a front wing, and then he's crashed again. Now Jacob Reed, another driller's driver, having problems here, crashing as well in turn number 1. So I believe that's all. Is that all the driller's drivers out of the race? So that's really not been a good race for drillers. It's just got worse and worse as we've gone on, as now Felix is having a look at Adrian Maharazoa on the outside of turn number 1. Can he go round the outside? Bit of contact there between the two. Luckily no one's forced into the wall, but that was a little bit awkward, because you don't want any contact there, as now Felix is really trying hard to get this place coming through turn 3 and 4, and Zaharov is here to pick up the pieces if any of these cause some issues. It looks like Felix is going to have to wait another couple of corners to try and make a move, maybe coming out the tunnel.
I think that hairpin wasn't the best. Lost quite a bit of time compared to the car in front of him there. And of course needs to watch out for Zarov behind now too. Zarov still being careful. Doesn't want to push too hard. Once the opportunity arises, I think Zarov is going to take full advantage of that.
So just to recap, we had Rusnak, Weiler and Reed all out in the last lap or so, which is leaving 17 drivers running. 3 of those are a lap down, and points do go to 15th place, so there's still things to fight for those drivers a little bit further down as we come into the last 20 laps of the race. But yeah, it's been... I just heard someone else crash. Job van Oyter has crashed in turn number 1 out of the race. So that leaves 16 cars running.
I think he in turn 1 hit the curve and then the wall, perhaps. Let's see. Replay, of course, like we said. Ooh, yeah, he lost the rear coming into turn 1 into the wall, and that's that's the end of the race for him.
It is a tricky track. It is definitely a tricky track. We have seen, unfortunately, we've seen this number of DNFs in a race before this season as well. So it's not it's not just the track necessarily, but obviously the track doesn't help with it being so tight. And there was a 3-week gap to this race, so you'd hope that most drivers practiced enough for this race, but it's still a very difficult track indeed. And it is still the top. Well, most of the top drivers of the series are still running. So yeah, but a few of the names that you might expect up there are also out of the race, such as Danny Robbins. And I just want to remind myself where he is in the standings. He's 3rd in the standings, 9 points off the lead. So there he's going to lose some decent points here and really open the championship up even more.
Thomas once again having the drivers behind him get very close. Zarov, Luka Felix. Both of them close, but not really close enough to get past him or make a move yet. Of course, that's the challenge of this track. 17 laps to go after this one. And Chatzipantelis still very comfortable on the lead.
It's come down a little bit though. It was up to over 11 seconds.
Here we go. Andira Misoa a bit wide into Raskas, and that allowed Felix to get past, and also Zaharov. He took full advantage of that. Let's get a replay of that in a second. But interesting move there by Felix. Let's quickly grab that replay.
And that's just how opportunistic you have to be, especially for Zaharov getting through as well. I see as Felix comes into Raskas. Oh, pushed his way through a little bit, but there's just about enough room. And then Zaharov, opportunistic up the inside there of the final corner. That was quite aggressive from Felix, but there's just about enough room. I'd say from one replay if that was exactly legal or not, because it was quite late, but he managed to make his way through either way with Zaharov following through. And now they've actually pulled away a tiny bit from Thomas. So it's interesting to see if these guys can get further up the road to Blake Checketts. And now looking back at the front, as I was saying just before that overtake, these guys have actually caught up George a little bit. It was up to 11 seconds, so the last few laps they've caught up about 3 seconds or so. But this could be Chatzipantelis just taking it nice and easy, knowing he's got a big, comfortable lead, or it could be that Khan is really pushing for this win. Now that the strategy's gone, I want to know what Barbakov can do. Sitting behind...
Crash again, Kaloksai. Sorry. Kaloksai and a Seabov race. I think that's Linus Lundvall in the chicane there. Let's have a quick look at what happened. Yeah, Kaloksai once again involved in an incident there. It's really not his day, is it?
He is going to be losing his championship lead, that's for sure.
Here we go. Coming into the chicane, he had the DRS. Did he go for the inside? Very late braking. Ooh, a bit moving on the braking there by Lundvall, I think.
Yeah, he didn't really... Kaloksai didn't really have any sort of overlap though, so it was coming quite late and trying his hardest.
You're on board with Lundvall. Yeah, a bit too much moving on the braking. I think it's difficult to say, of course, from 1 or 2 points of view, but definitely that is a front wing gone for Kaloksai once again.
Yeah, it's just yeah, they were told, especially for that chicane, that they need to really make sure they make their moves stick. So sticking your nose in there like Kaloksai did really isn't the smartest thing to do, especially knowing that he is leading the championship. They don't need to be losing a front wing and even more points. Because at the moment he is 16th place, the last person of the group, but also the last person to not get points. So yeah, that is something that he needs to consider if he wants to be leading this championship as we get later on in the season. Obviously, we got 5 races after this one. We head to Silverstone, then the Nürburgring, then we head to the newly updated Zandvoort, before finishing with Matsusaka and Sao Paulo as well. So some good tracks coming up, and if he wants to have any sort of opportunity coming into Sao Paulo, he really needs to make sure that he's not doing this in further races, because Matsusen will be gaining 11 points on him as it stands. Kaloksai's back in the pit lane. Did he do a speeding offence, or is he going to retire? Not really too sure. Maybe he's serving a stop-go penalty. Unsure, but he is either way. He's in the pit lane.
Vicentovic without a front wing. So great racing team driver in P13 at the moment. He was doing quite a good job. Managed to keep it out of the wall for most of the time, but right now has lost his front wing. Let's quickly grab that replay. Lots of replays today. Was it in the hairpin? He didn't make the corner.
Yeah, he I mentioned this earlier on. Actually, you got to actually take a late apex in the hairpin, because it's quite tight. People generally think, oh, let's just get all the lock and turn in early, but you actually want to turn in late. Otherwise, you go too wide on the exit, which is exactly what Vicentovic did there as he comes into the pit lane. But just ahead of him is Pinataro, 9th place at the moment. Will he drop down to 10th? No, he won't. So he's made his pit stop on those soft compound tyres, and he's in 9th place with Adrian Harazoa, Zaharov, Felix, and even Blake Checkett's not too far up the road. So Pinataro could be one to look out for in the closing 14 laps of this race, because he's going to be really quick on those soft compound tyres, and he will have the grip advantage to try and make an overtake work.
Yeah, but it's going to be difficult, of course. We've seen it already multiple times today. You can be a lot quicker than the driver in front of you, but getting past them on this track is really, really challenging. Even if you have the pace advantage and the grip advantage. But we're going to have to wait and see how Roberto is able to manage that. He still has 13 laps to do so.
Oh, I heard more crashing noise. Oh, Zaharov! Oh no! Zaharov has lost his front wing in the wall, and then he's
also
caused
on the
Adrian...
yeah,
he caused Adrian Mazzara to basically run into him, and this has caused a bit of a backlog with some other drivers. I think that's João Gabriel, who is a lap down, and Pinataro there has got up into 7th place already. So 2 places gifted to him.
Pantelis and Barbakov had to avoid that. If I'm not
No, it was
mistaken.
Gabriel, and it was Gabriel who's a lap down, and someone else who I'm not sure, but maybe we can see
Let's have a look.
on a replay, because yeah, Zaharov I think actually reversed into Adrian Harazoa, but I only caught that just as he did it, so let's have a look and see what he did.
Wall. No, ooh, he did a Verstappen almost into the wall, the swimming pool there. Yeah, difficult. He reverses there, but I think he was going to get collected anyway, even if he sticks to it.
Thomas had nowhere to go. Zaharov shouldn't have moved, but Thomas still had nowhere to go, and they are back out in 10th and 11th place, 1 lap down. So only the top 9 are on the lead lap here. Crazy scenes at Azure, as we kind of expected, with it being such a crazy, tight, fast street circuit. So yeah, let's just have you a little rundown with the order. Chespansis is leading the way by 8 seconds to Ibrahim Khan, who's been defending for ages now from Barbakov. And then we've got Matt Tucson in 4th position, quite a way behind actually, hasn't really had the pace of them. Then Blake Checketts is having an awesome race in 5th position from Luca Felix in 6th. Roberto Pinataro has now got a clean space ahead of him in 9th place. He's got 9 seconds to catch up Luca Felix in the last 12 laps, so there might be a fight there for 6th place at the end. Then we've got Guillermo Mas in 8th, and his teammate Ferrit in 9th, before Adrian Harazoa being in 10th position. And Zaharov is back in the pit lane, so he must have got a drive-through penalty for speeding.
He did.
Which
Same
is
for Lundfall, by the way.
Ideal to say the least. But yeah, pretty crazy scenes here as we're watching Barbakov still try and get past Khan.
Yeah, let's have a quick look at the live driver standings as well. Of course, everything is thrown into the mix once again here after this race. At least so far, standings would be like this if we take the finishing positions as they are right now. Matthew Tucson would be leading the championship once again with about 64 points. Which is a 9-point lead over Barbakov then. Kaloksai, of course, has had a really troublesome race so far. Would be in 3rd with 53 points. And Danny Robbins has DNF'd, so he will be 4th. And then Matthew Klipp, he's actually not here today, I believe.
No.
Jan Kata already DNF'd. Petr Palacek already DNF'd. Thomas Andrea Miasoa is still driving in P10, so he will also be gaining a few points, but not too much. So, championship will get even interesting once again, but Tucson leading so far.
And interesting, if you look at that, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, all on 25 points. Those are the 4 drivers so far who've won races, but that is the only points they've got, which is why the championship is so sort of close and no one's really leading the way. And George Chespansis, as I mentioned as well, is one of those drivers. He hasn't scored any points. In fact, he's DNF'd from the races he's done so far this season. So if he can get this win, it's just amazing to see how much variety there has been, as Riboli has come in for a set of the soft compound tyres in 12th place. 1 lap down as well. As Barbkov is trying very hard here, but he's not really making it work at this moment. He made the mistake of being undercut. He let Khan get the upper hand on the strategy, and it's really paying the price now, because well, as you mentioned, it's difficult to overtake as it is, especially when you're on the same compound and aged tyres.
Yeah, it's I would say almost impossible for Barbakov to really get past Khan, unless of course Khan makes some sort of mistake and gives him an opportunity. I think also maybe the car of Khan has a little bit more top speed. Difficult to say from our perspective on the short straights here, but just looking at the telemetry from the live timing, Ibrahim Khan has a top speed in the top speed trap of 300.1 kilometers an hour, and Barbakov 297.8, so that's about a little bit over 2 kilometers an hour quicker. So it's a little bit less wings on that Sibov Net Race Motorsport car.
Barkov's really getting close now, coming out of the final corner. But once again, Khan gets that acceleration really well. We've seen him been able to defend. We have seen some overtakes into turn number 1, but it seems like Khan just gets enough of the drive coming out of that final corner to be able to defend that nicely. So Khan is doing a very, very good job indeed. Very impressive, considering that he doesn't really have a teammate up there helping him. Seawolf are currently 3rd in the Constructors' Championship, despite missing the first race. They only entered in the 2nd race of the season. 10 points ahead of HM Invictus, who are currently on 50 points. They are on 65 currently. And just running through the constructors as we are here. Drillers Esport, Lundvall just ahead of these guys has blown up his engine, so he is out of the race. But yeah, Constructors Championship, Drillers are leading 141 points ahead of Royal Blue on 97, so they've got 44-point lead, have Drillers, but they did all DNF here today. So we've now got only 15 drivers left in this race as Lundvall expires his engine with 8 laps to go, which means Kalaksai, 2 laps down, might still get a point here in 15th place, because classification is 90%, which would be, I believe, 42 laps. As long as he does another 3 laps after this one, he will get that singular point to reduce the damage that is being done. Khan's now struggling a little bit, had a bit of a wiggle with those rear tyres. Barkov needs to be very, very careful here. And so does Kalaksai, really, who's sitting behind these guys 2 laps down. Does need to get involved when these guys are fighting for something a bit more important. But we have seen Barkov make some interesting overtakes, let's put it that way, this season. Unfortunately got a time penalty in Portugal last time out for one of his incidents as well. He does need to be careful he doesn't get too many more of them, because he also got a time penalty in Imola race 2, so he's dropped some points there, and he would be, I believe, leading the championship had he not done that. So far, Khan is doing a pretty good job here as they come onto the tunnel for the 42nd time in this race. And Barbkov, once again, has just dropped off a little bit. He stayed within DRS zone, but he's just dropped off a little bit, coming towards the chicane. And yeah, once again, it does look like Khan has the raw pace, but this DRS is helping Barbkov to stay in touch, as they will have 5 laps to go at the end of this one. So just 5 more, 10 more DRS zones that will be for Khan to defend, and it looks like the first one is going to go pretty well, as Barbkov is starting to make a couple of mistakes, and Kalexai is all over the back of him. He can unlap himself, but it's not always the best thing to do, because you will have to get out of the blue flags, get a second up the road as quickly as you can, but he's not going to be able to do that with Khan just up the road. So Kalexai is really stuck there and can't do too much else at the moment. And yeah, this gap, Barbakov's really dropping off.
Yeah, perhaps the tires there for Barbakov starting to drop off. Of course, he is in the dirty air already for quite a few laps behind Ibrahim Khan. That will probably lose you a bit more grip. And on this track, you don't get too much grip, the tires will spin up, and you'll lose the rubber there on the road. Of course, Barbakov maybe also pushing a bit too hard, trying to find a way past Khan, and now the gap has risen to over a second. And he's lost the DRS now as well, and needs to watch out for Kalexai behind him.
Yeah, it's about 2.5 seconds now. Barbakov's really dropped off. I think his tyres are done. To be honest, I think that is Ibrahim Khan getting himself in that second position. And yeah, he was a second quicker than Chatzipantelis and Barbakov on the last lap. It might be too little too late. 7 seconds to Chatzipantelis here on the streets of Azure. So it's a little bit of a way to go. Oh, Khan's blown his engine. Khan has blown his engine coming out of the hairpin. 4 laps to go. Hopefully he gets out of the way of Barbakov. Oh, just about. Oh no. Who was that?
Where did that car come from?
Who on earth was that? Vishentovic, I think that was. I'm confused.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, he was lagging. Yeah, he was lagging all over the place. Did Barbakov hit him then?
Maybe, but he's still driving.
This is weird. Now, is I've got no idea. No. I just had a look on the replay. Vishentovic comes out of nowhere, literally, and he doesn't actually hit anyone, fortunately. So that means Barbakov has been gifted second place here with only 3 laps to go. And Khan is going to be kicking himself. And this puts Matt Tucson on the podium, which is going to be even more points over Kalexai, although obviously Kalexai will further gain a position because of Khan as well. Yeah. But Tucson will still gain a little bit more, as we're now looking for 6th place. I said Pinataro will catch Felix, and he has. The issue is, can he get past?
And a massive amount of wheel spin out of the final corner. Lost a lot of traction there, but perhaps this time out of turn 1. This is really not a place where you can overtake, of course. You have to be really brave and careful in the same time, because you need to trust the driver if you go for a move up the hill there. Perhaps out of the tunnel, but we've seen before that that can be really tricky if you don't do it perfectly and the other driver gives you the space.
Oh, Felix tyres are done. Look how slow he is in these corners. Pinataro needs to calm down.
Yeah,
he needs to see that the grip advantage he's got. I mean, I can see it from here. It's crazy. He doesn't need to do anything stupid or dive bombs like he's going for down the inside there, and he's just about got enough room. There's going to be contact in the wall, and Felix has lost his front wing, and they've both got out of the way from the car. No, they haven't. Felix has spun that car around. That is really messy situation for these drivers. Is that Checkits? Now, who is that? Riboli is the one spun around. So let's have a look at how this is worked out. So Felix and Pinataro are battling on their in-lap. Pinataro might actually be able to... Oh, let's have a replay actually while it's on the screen. God, he comes so late. He leaves him room, while Felix doesn't leave him room on this last apex. and Pinataro gets out of the way nicely, but Felix actually hits Riboli, and that is not a pleasant sight indeed. And out of all of this, Felix is in the pit lane and might drop outside of the top 10. I think he will. So yeah, not ideal, as we now are watching Chester Pantelis as he comes on to the final lap of the race. He's only got 19 more corners to go to take his, I do believe it's his first ever victory, at least in the Academy Championship. He's DNF'd. If you followed this man for the last 5 years, he has DNF'd in so many races. He's been in good positions on a number of those occasions as well, but he always just makes a tiny mistake. But this race, he has done pretty perfectly, got pole, romped off into the lead, and he's only got half a lap to go now before he takes victory here in Azure. So hopefully he doesn't do anything stupid on this last lap, because he has been pretty perfect apart from the any potential mistakes that he might do on this last sector. And this would be a nice result for Netrex as well. They haven't had the best start to 2020 in all 3 championships, but this would be great to get a win here as he comes through the final couple of corners. And I'd say I'm pretty happy for George. He has been trying for so many years, and he's finally managed to take victory here after 47 laps. He takes victory in Azure, so brilliant job there by George after 56 minutes. Awesome job there, getting his first ever victory. And now Stoyan Barbakov is coming around the final corner, and he's actually not too far ahead of Matt Tusen in the end. He really slowed down, but he gets second place. Matt Tusen will get third. And we have to go back quite a way to Blake Checketts, who will be getting 4th position. That is a really good job from Blake. He was quite a way down on the alternate strategy, but it worked out. He's kept it clean. And that is a good job for Blake, getting 4th position. And Pinataro, pending any potential penalty, who knows? Have to see if anything comes of that. But 5th place for the Go Speed driver after the 47 laps here. Then we got Guillermo Mas coming out of the corner to get 6th place with his teammate in 7th. And that is only that team's 2nd ever race in Formula Sim racing. And then all the other drivers have actually finished because they were a lap down. So Adrian Harazoa in 8th, Felix in 9th, Zaharov in 10th, Gabriel in 11th, Riboli actually blew his engine on the final lap in 12th, Kalaksai getting, I believe that'll be 3 points for 13th place. Not the best day for your championship leader. And then Vicentovic being the final person to finish in 14th. And Ibrahim Khan blew his engine, but I believe he will get points for being classified in 15th.
Probably, yeah. I think he will still manage to get the cutoff there. And standings are not looking exactly like this. They should look like this. There we go. Tusen leading the championship now. Of course, this is pending penalties and race checks, which will be done after the race in the next week or so. But Tusen, 66 points, 8-point lead over Barbakov now. Great job from Tusen. Kalaksai still able to keep 3rd. Still, I believe, in the championship fight. Of course, there's still 5 races to go. With only 10 points behind Tusen, there's still much to be gained if he gets some good races in. But yeah, I would say we've had a really nice race here for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what we expected. A bit of a crazy race, a number of accidents. And we still have 2 more races to go. We've got the Pro Championship and then the World Championship later on today. As you see on your screen, 1840 GMT. We will be seeing the World Championship go out, so that's about 3.5 hours. But in just about an hour's time, we'll be going for the Pro Championship, where we will see the intermediate level drivers go out, and that's going to be another intense race here at Azure. But I think that is pretty much it from the Academy series. So we'll thank our sponsors SimLab, 3D Wrap, and now IMB Racewear as well. So thank you for those coming aboard and giving awesome prizes to our champions. But we still have 5 races till we find out who will be champion. So until the next race in Silverstone for the Academy Championship, we will see you later.